What's up, everybody? What's up, guys? Today we're going to be working on this simple lettering tattoo. As you guys can see, it's already been stenciled on the skin, so we're gonna skip those steps. But I did show you in a prior video of how to go about stenciling your tattoo. In this case, we didn't do it by hand. We actually have a stencil printer, which I have to make a video on. And this is the way that it prints out on the stencil. So we've laid this on the skin, and now we're getting ready to start tattooing. Now, a couple things I want to tell you before I start. Usually when you do lettering on your hand, by rule of thumb, you want to have it facing this way, because the arm usually hangs down, so this is going to be the way that it's going to read better. However, my client wanted it in the opposite direction because she wants to be able to read it. So that's why we did it in this way. But there is really no right or wrong way on doing it. So you can just do it however you want. The most common choice is this way, facing, I guess, facing up when the arm is down. But she wanted it the opposite way. So we did that. Now we stenciled the tattoo, and we've given it a few minutes, about 10 minutes or so, because you want the stencil to be nice and dry before you start. Otherwise, you're going to lose your stencil. Another thing that you want to make sure that you do is, whichever reference you're using for your tattoo. In this case, this tattoo is backwards for me, so I'm seeing it upside down. So if I obviously have to have a reference next to it in order to be able to do this tattoo, you want to have the reference in the same direction. And I see people making, it seems like a stupid mistake and it seems like common sense, but you're essentially drawing on someone's skin, and you want to make sure that the stencil or the reference, it's in the same direction as the tattoo, because you don't want to be doing guesswork. And from going from reference to tattoo, you only have a couple seconds before the information gets lost in your mind. Your memory has a really short span, especially when you're looking back and forth at a reference. So the shorter of distance that you can have your reference from the tattoo that you're actually doing would be better. So you usually want to have the reference in front of your eyes. That way you're not turning your neck so much. And you want to make sure that it's in the same direction, okay? It's really important to make sure that it's in the same direction, just to make your life easier, okay? So we're going to be using a 3-round liner today. And the 3-round liner, it has a gauge of 10. So they have needles have different gauges, as you guys will know. There's 0, 8, 10, and 12. In this case, we're using the 10, which is a smaller gauge, and it's going to give me a thinner line, okay? And why do I want that gauge? Because, well, I want some of the lines to be very, very thin, and it's going to allow me to build up the thicker lines, but keeping really sharp edges, okay? So that's what we're going to do. Another thing that you want to keep in mind before you start is, when you're doing your outlines, I usually like having the tattoo that I'm working on at the height of my chest, just because the outline is the most precise part of a tattoo, and you want to make sure that it's as neat and as perfect as possible. And one way to ensure that is to have your face really close to the tattoo. So once I start shading, usually in tattoos that have shading or coloring, I will lower the height of the tattoo to about the height of my belly button or my stomach, because I want to have a more comfortable hand position. But when you're doing outline, you want to have the tattoo as close to your face as possible. That's just going to give you more precision, okay? So we're going to get started. And you want to make sure you put ointment on the tattoo in order to soften the skin. And you want to make sure that your skin is very, very nice and tight, okay? So using the opposite hand, you want to have a tight grip on the skin. And you want to make sure that it's nicely stretched. Now as I wipe, and you guys will notice that when I'm actually doing the line, I will not be speaking. The reason why this is because I hold my breath when I'm doing a line. Sometimes I'm either holding my breath or I'm exhaling. And the reason why is because it's going to give you more precision, and your hands are not going to jitter as much. You're not going to be pulsating, and it just gives you better body control, better motor skills, okay? So now I'm going to do, oh, and another thing that you want to make sure is that the paper that you're using to wipe the tattoo, it has to be dry. If you wet this paper and then you clean the tattoo, you're going to lose your stencil completely, and you're basically going to be screwed. You're not going to be able to do your tattoo, okay? So we're going to, from what I'm seeing right now, as I wiped the tattoo, I realized that it's going to be erasing the stencil. This stencil, especially not the one that's done on the printer, it does not stay on the skin for too long as opposed to the one that you do by hand. So I'm gonna have to be really careful. I'm gonna have to be really mindful of that. And instead of completing each letter one by one, I'm going to just quickly go over all of the letters, and then I'm gonna go back and I'm going to adjust all the letters and just make sure that they're finished. So you guys will see what I'm talking about. Okay, so that's a good stopping point for that letter. That gives me pretty much the shape and the flow of the letter. I can finish all the details out later, okay? So I'm gonna move on to the next letter. One thing that you wanna make sure is when you're doing an outline is think about an airplane that's taking off or it's landing. That's kind of the same motion you need to have with your needle. You don't want to go straight into the skin and then move. You want to ease the needle into the skin and ease the needle out of the skin. Just like this. When you're doing letters, guys, it's not as important to letters or just outline for that matter. It's not as important to follow the letter or the stencil to a T. It's more important to follow the flow, okay? Even if you're off to the side a little bit, don't correct, because if you correct, you're gonna get a jagged line, okay? So instead of doing that, just make sure that you continue with the same flow, and it's gonna read just fine, okay? So we're gonna do that here. We're gonna ease into the line, and then we're gonna ease out. And the reason why I don't do that line completely is because, as you guys will notice, these two fingers, I use them as an anchor. These fingers, they always have to be anchored to the skin, to some sort of surface when I'm tattooing. And I only have so much movement with my fingers anchored onto the skin. So because the movement is limited, I have to do a stroke, and then I have to ease out of the stroke, and then I have to readjust my hand to do the next stroke. And when I'm doing the next stroke, I'm not going to start where the line ended. Instead, I'm going to go back a little bit, because remember, I just eased out of that line. So the end of that line is not going to be as thick as the middle. So you want to go back a little bit, and you want to ease into the line again. Just like so. And always go thinner. You can always go thicker later. Always go thinner first. And the whole time I'm exhaling or I'm holding my breath, because that gives me that level of precision. It's the only way you're going to be able to do that. So I'm going to ease into the line. Make sure that I follow the flow. Not so worried about the stencil, but the flow of the lines is what I care about. Okay, so far so good. And this one, because it has longer strokes, I'm gonna have to connect the lines. So I'm gonna start easing into the line, and then I'm easing out of the line at some point here. Make sure you wipe away from your stencil. That way you don't stain your stencil, or you always have a clear stencil to be able to read, okay? So I'm going to start a little bit before the end of the line right here. Right there, that's a good stopping point. Going to start again. And you always want to make sure that your hands is in the most comfortable position to make a stroke. And you will notice there's only a few positions that your hands make a clean, consistent stroke. So you have to get used to moving your body, moving your hand and your body around the tattoo, so you can get into that comfortable position. Okay, right here, same, I'm following the flow. I don't care so much about the stencil as much as I care about the flow. Because if you follow the flow, it's going to feel natural. And that is more important than it to be perfect. Again, the stencil is just a reference. These tattoos are perfect when it comes to practicing and learning, because they're going to perfect your lines, your line work, which to me is the basics of tattooing. If you don't have good line work, you're not a good tattoo artist. So, and it's gonna help you learn to control your machine, learn to help you control your motor skills. So these kinds of tattoo are the most important tattoos when you're starting out, especially when you have these like fine flowy lines. These are really good tattoos to get started with. And you guys will notice that I don't care about completing all of the lines. I'm just making sure that I have the stencil committed to her skin. And now I'm gonna go back and I'm going to clean everything up. We're gonna clean the skin, and this is what it looks like so far. So I have a really good structure. I have a really good structure to go by already. Now at this point, because my stencil is committed to her skin, now I can relax a little bit. And you want to wet your napkin in order to be able to clean and take all that excess ink off, so you can see your work a little bit better. So we're gonna go over everything now, just to make sure that it's finished, okay? These tattoos are great practice, because you're also gonna be able to practice precision. Because when tattoos are really small like this, you can notice any little mistake. So it will help you get more precise and more detail oriented. It seems simple, but it's actually not. To get some good letters done, it takes a lot of practice. So make sure you guys are practicing these. And they're easy tattoos to do. What I mean by easy, they're quick to get done. So it's not a lot of pressure for you as a beginner to get these tattoos done. It's not gonna take a lot of your time, and you're gonna be able to, you're gonna sort of be able to get instantly rewarded by finishing something and looking good. So I'm gonna go over this line. And now that I'm going over some of the existing lines, I have to be a little bit more superficial because the skin's already open and it's very absorbent. So all you have to do is just lightly graze over that skin, and that's going to get the ink in there. Okay, there's a little spot right here that I want to fill. And I'm just lightly grazing the skin, and I'm going back and forth in order to fill it. Okay. Don't use circle motion. This is an old school way of tattooing by doing little circles. That destroys the skin. Okay. So make sure that you're not doing that. Just go back and forth. And just be thorough and make sure you're getting every little corner. That's it. And make sure that you're transition. One thing that I make sure is that I'm transitioning from thin to thick progressively, and it's nice and even, you know, and it's not it all flows, you know, from thin to the thicker line. There's a progression and it flows well. That's super important when it comes to these line works that have this kind of flowy, thick to thin look. And this is a good time to start basically analyzing the tattoo and making sure that all the details are taken care of. Making sure that everything is the way that you like it. And as far as the voltage goes on the machine, that's going to vary from skin to skin. It also varies according to the needle that you're using. The less number of needles you're using on the skin, the less resistance the skin is going to create to the needle, okay? So if there's less resistance, that means the machine is required to have less force, so you can lower the voltage a little bit. So this is one of those things that there's not really a perfect number to tell you whenever you're doing an outline. It's something that you have to build the sensitivity for, and I would say always start with a lower voltage and then work your way up until it feels right. And the way you will know is by being able to do a stroke in one single line. If you can do a solid line with a single stroke, that means you're at the right voltage. So start low and then work your way up. It also changes from machine to machine, from needle to needle. Some needles are sharper than others. So there's a lot of factors involved into the voltage. That's why I always say there's not a specific voltage for every instance, but you know, you have to just build the sensitivity and just understand that you have to feel it out. In this case, my client she's very young. She has really soft skin, so I'm using a lower voltage than I would normally use. I'm also using a very small needle. So all of those factors I'm taking into account when choosing my voltage. Okay, and we're almost done here, and as you guys can see, I mean, I'm doing this tattoo in real time, and you will notice that obviously I have a lot of practice, and you starting off might take longer than me. You will take longer than me to get this done, but just to give you guys some perspective, like, this is how long it takes to do one of these tattoos. So it doesn't take a long time. Even if you take twice as long or 3 times as long, it's still relatively a short time to get this tattoo. So you can get some instant reward, and you can practice and do a lot of these. Okay, you can do it on your brother, your sister, your mom, your cousin. Everybody is gonna get words on them. And people generally like words because people like tattooing either words of reminders or beliefs or family members, their names. So it's a really common tattoo for people to get, and it'll give you a lot of practice. Okay, and you also don't have to stress about making these by hand. You can if you want to. If you're into calligraphy, that's great. You can basically just do these by hand, but there are websites that you can go into, and you can choose whatever font you want, and you can play with that, and you can download those fonts onto your iPad or onto your computer. In this case, my client brought me the font already made, but she used a website called fontspace.com. That website has been around for a long time. I've actually used that website for many years, and it has a lot of different fonts. So just with that website alone, there's the sky's the limit, really. You guys will notice that these 2 fingers, they're always holding the skin tight. Okay, super important. Okay, so I'm almost done here. I'm gonna wrap this up, and then I'll show you guys the end result. Okay. Okay, so now I am almost done with this tattoo. It apparently looks done, but I always like to do one last revision. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the tattoo, I'm going to clean it, and I'm going to examine every little spot. There's always little spots that are left undone and things that I know that I can clean up. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to clean up, I'm going to take a look, And I'm already starting to see a couple of spots here that need to be touched up. This line needs to be fixed. This E needs to be cleaned up and sharpened up a little bit. The S is fine. The I could also use a little bit of work. So, and you'll be able to see that once you're done and once you've cleaned the skin really well. So I lower my voltage just a little bit more. I'm about 10.1 volts, but again, that means nothing because unless you have the same setup that I do, same machine and same voltage, that's not gonna matter, okay? And this is when you want to be really meticulous and just go over all the little details. Now you have to be extremely light-handed when doing this because any little mistake will destroy the letters. Also, the skin's already really open and is really absorbent, so you don't really have to put a lot of pressure in order to get this right. Okay, so just be very light-handed and be very observant to all the little details that need fixing or cleaning up. I'm going to thicken the Y a little bit because I want it to match the S. So I'm going to go a little bit thicker here. And I'm just going off of the edge of what's already done, and I'm just trying to broadening up a little bit, okay? Very, very slightly. Any little slight change is going to make a difference in these letters because they're so small. So you have to be super careful. And my face is really close to the tattoo, and I'm making sure that I'm paying attention to every single detail, okay? Every single detail I'm paying attention to. And you want to be meticulous with everything you do. I mean, even if it's a small lettering like this is the kind of thing that it's going to make your clients appreciate your work. And also, the way you do one thing is the way that you do everything. So if you're meticulous on something small like this, then you will be meticulous on larger projects, and vice versa. If you're being careless with stuff like this, you're being careless with other stuff. It doesn't matter how small it is, you want to be able to make it as perfect as you can, okay? And that's just, it's a practice that's going to build the type of character that you want in order to be a good tattoo artist. And just in general, really, one thing that working on a craft like tattooing will do for you is that it will clean you up as a human being too. Like, you have to have a specific type of discipline and character in order to be a good tattoo artist, and it's going to carry onto other parts of your life. So you'll become, if you want to be a good tattoo artist, you're going to become more organized, more disciplined. You're going to pay attention to detail. These are the kind of things you have to be patient. And these are things that you have to practice in your real life or in your life outside of your work in order for it to carry over to your work. So, and vice versa, you know, stuff that you learn as you're tattooing, you can carry on to your life. And that's really the beauty about working on any craft. It doesn't matter what craft it is. Okay, we're almost done here. Okay, we're pretty much done with this tattoo. And you guys can see how clean that looks. A simple tattoo, but it took about 30 minutes to get it done. So just to give you guys a little perspective on how long something takes when you want to do it right. Let me just touch a couple little more spots. And I do this all the time. My clients get mad at me because they think they're done. And I tell them, no, wait, they're not done. Just want to make sure that I clean every single edge of every line. And again, you got to do this very lightly, because if you go over the skin so many times and you're not being light-handed, you will destroy the skin. So I'm being extremely light-handed here. In these tattoos, you have to be a little bit more meticulous than in everything else, because any little mistake will show because it's so small. So make sure you take your time and you do it right. Okay, now I'm done. What do you think? You like it? Awesome. So now that we're done, I'm going to cover the tattoo up. And so you want to clean it first. Make sure it's nice and clean. And then we're going to use a product called Second Skin. And I will make sure to put a description on the link on the description below to a Second Skin that I buy. Specifically, this is one that I've been using for quite some time now. I've tried a few. This one works really well. I really like it. So I will send you guys, I will link the description below. So now you want to go ahead and put alcohol around the sides, not on the tattoo itself, but around the sides, okay? This is going to make sure that the adhesive sticks to the skin a little bit better and it holds. This is a tattoo that it heals rather quickly, but I still like covering it up with second skin just because it's nice, it's transparent, so the client can see their tattoo, and it actually makes the tattoo heal a little bit faster, so, and it makes the client's life a little bit easier. Okay, this is what it looks like. So I'm going to remove the backside. It's going to be sticky on the backside. You're going to stick it onto the skin. And remove the back. And that's what it looks like. So thank you guys for watching this video. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and leave a comment below if you have any questions, and I'll see you guys on the next one, okay?